I've been really enjoying riding the Ducati Scrambler since I got it, but there's one thing that I'm not sure about, and that's these bars on the Icon. They're quite high, they're quite wide, and having previously ridden the full throttle, I think I prefer that riding position, so I'm going to do a quick bar swap. Now, I managed to pick up a set of used full throttle bars in excellent condition, but that's when I discovered my first problem. It's not as straightforward a job as you would think, because these Icon bars are 7/8 of an inch all the way through. The full throttle bars and the night shift bars are actually fat bars, so they have got a wider diameter at the clamp. That means you have to change this top clamp and the bottom clamp, and the bottom clamp also holds on the speedo. So I did think, well, maybe I will then just buy a set of rental bars, but the fact that I already had these bars meant I would scrap going for the rentals and just pony up for the top and bottom clamps, and then I can do a straightforward switch. All the holes are already drilled, all the marking positions are there to get them exactly where you need it. It's going to cost a little bit more, but it's going to be easier in the long run. Weirdly, although maybe not weirdly because it's Ducati, this part was more expensive than this part. First job will be to whip these controls off. Then we can just leave that hanging, get the bar ends off. There we have to get it down inside. Bingo. And don't forget your little spacer. And we can put that to one side because these are going to go back on. I'm going to hold that together whilst I undo it, just to make sure there's no surprise springs or clips that fall out when I take it off, but there shouldn't be. All you've got is the locating pins, and there we can see, yeah, it is roughly in the same place. These bars sit at a slightly different angle, and we've also got the marker for where the controls go. The other side is the same, but it's just two separate units with the bolts underneath. And you'll notice on here that one bolt is longer than the other, so just bear that in mind. So on these are actually screws, because there's a special tool needed to get to this bit, but you don't need to get to that, you don't need to get to the insides of that. Just undo the cross-headed screws. That will loosen that off, which will enable that to slide off. Then we can undo these 4 bolts. That will enable us to move the bars to slide the controls off. And we can't just go ahead and undo these bolts to take this clamp off, because the clock is part of that as well. So we've got to get the speedo off of this bracket. So that's going to start by getting this cover off. All 3 of those bolts are the same size, which is useful. And I think that is all that is holding that on. But it also looks like I've got to unplug it to be able to get it through that hole. Once the speedo is disconnected, these need to come off to go onto the new one. Then we can undo these bolts and swap this over. And as I thought, there is a nut under here. You can actually see it better from this side. On the other side, there's a small bracket here which shields it. So you can actually get to that nut underneath by putting a spanner straight up. And be careful then, when you lift the clamp off, there is a washer that sits on top of this. That sits on there. So just make sure you keep an eye open in case that drops. And now it's just a reverse process, putting the new one on. Not having a workshop manual means I don't know what torque this needs to be done up to. So I'm just going to do it up tight. And then if I do manage to track down the torque settings, I will come back and do it up to the appropriate tightness. And then obviously the rest of it is just the reverse. One thing I do have to do though is plug the clock in and make sure that that all still fires up, and I've not got to put any codes in it, because I have been reading that I may have to put a code in to sync this, but the fact that it's the same clock, I'm hoping it just plugs in and switches on and does what it should do. So hey, everything's on, and yep, same mileage, everything is as it should be. So now the bar and the clamp can go back in, but obviously I need to get this onto the handlebars first. Onto there. There's the locating pin, but I won't worry about that too much now. What I wanted to do was just get that into position so that I can put the clamp on and get this bit done. So I've just slid the other controls on, and then I can obviously bolt the top clamp on in place. Now I've got a nice neat little accessory to go onto this, and what it is a sat-nav mount. In this case I've got it set up to take a Beeline Moto II. There's a little mount inside with some brackets, and then in this box we have some of the beautifully made bolts. So this essentially replaces 2 of the bolts on the top yoke, and then we can have that mounted there. And there you go. And then you can snap your Moto 2 in there. Job done. Or of course you could fit it on this side, although the spacers are probably a little bit too tall because it is raised up a little bit, but it still looks pretty neat and tidy without the Moto 2 in place. Evotech offer a whole host of these mounts, and you'll find them on the specific page for your bike. But if there isn't one listed, or you've got a custom bike, then you can go to their own configurator on their website. And you take several measurements: the distance of the centers between the holes on the top yoke, how much of a spacer you need to get clearance above it, and the extra length bolt that you'll require. Then they'll just make up this kit and send it to you specifically for your bike. One of the good things about using these bars is the locating pin hole is already there, so I don't have to mess around trying to find the best position. I can just get those so that that's in the hole, tighten that up, slide this grip back into place, remembering the spacer that goes on there. Then I can work out what I'm going to use for bar and mirrors. I've got some really nice Moto Gadget ones on the Suzuki. I could swap those over, or I could look at some alternatives, but let's get the rest of this back together and I'll worry about that later. Now, of course, one thing with these is because the bars are a little bit closer, I've got a little bit of excess here, so I will see if I can either feed that down inside there, which it looks like I can do that. So that's an easy fix, and I'll do the same on the other side. When I come to fit this one, I've realised that I had it initially on upside down. Found the locating pin. Again, when it comes to this side, you're going to need a little bit of cable management. So there you go, all back on with the stock mirrors and the bar ends for the time being. You can't really see it very well here, so let's get it outside and show you what it looks like with these. I think it looks much better, and I'm hoping that it is going to offer improved ergonomics for me when I ride. So let's get out on the road. Visually, there doesn't appear to be that much difference between the bars, but the riding position has, for me, been transformed. Just having them a little bit lower means that I get a little bit more weight forward. I'm not sat up. It doesn't feel like my hands are quite as widely spread, although the bars are roughly the same width. But I think because there's a bit less sweep and a bit less layback, it's a much nicer position. And I think bringing them into black really helps as well. If you are considering changing your bars on a Scrambler, I hope this has been helpful. It is a simple job, but obviously you need to be aware that the diameter of the bars at the clamps does differ between models. If you've got any questions, then let me know in the comment section down below. And all that leaves me to say is until next time, thanks for watching, take care, ride safe, and I'll see you soon. Bye!